Greetings, students. I hope you're doing well. And we are here with you with yet another informative session regarding the subject of CPC. स्टूडेंट्स को कभी कभार ये सब्जेक्ट बहुत टेक्निकल लगता है, हालांकि ठीक है, टेक्निकलिटीज अपनी जगह हैं, वो हर लॉ में होती हैं, बट इट्स नॉट समथिंग टू बी अफ्रेड ऑफ एंड इट्स क्वाइट सिंपल. एंड हमारा यही एक मोटिव है, यही हमारा प्रयास है कि हम आप तक डीप कंसेप्चुअल नॉलेज लेकर आए, बट नॉट बाय मेकिंग यू अफ्रेड, बल्कि हम आपको वही डीप कंसेप्चुअल नॉलेज एक सिंप्लीफाइड तरीके से लेकर आए सो दैट यू आर एबल टू टेक द सब्जेक्ट हेड ऑन. इट्स नॉट समथिंग टू बी अफ्रेड ऑफ. ना ही ये ओवरली कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है. समस्या सिर्फ इतनी है कि ओवरली कॉम्प्लिकेटेड बनाया जाता है इफ इट इज नॉट अप्रोच्ड वेल. सो माय ओनली motive and intention here is that I want to get this subject as simplified as possible for the students, and that is why we are picking up certain areas which are doable, because see, हर एक area एक बहुत short duration में नहीं लेकर आया जा सकता, but certain areas are there जिनको हम एक concise form में एक short duration में आप तक लेकर आ सकते हैं. हम वही एरियाज को पिक कर रहे हैं जो एग्जामिनेशन पर्सपेक्टिव से बहुत रेलेवेंट है, चाहे वो प्रीलिम्स हो, चाहे वो मेंस हो, या चाहे वो इंटरव्यू हो. सो व्हाटएवर इज वेरी रेलेवेंट एज रिगार्ड्स द एग्जामिनेशन आइदर ऑफ द स्टेजेस, वी आर ब्रिंगिंग दोस टॉपिक्स फॉर योर अंडरस्टैंडिंग. टुडे वी आर गोइंग टू डील विद अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक. रादर वी आर गोइंग टू डील विद टू सेट्स ऑफ टॉपिक्स, एंड द फर्स्ट टॉपिक दैट वील डील विद इज suits by or against the government. Suits by or against the government. See, when we look at this particular area, it is actually one of the most important areas as regards the questions are concerned. जब भी मैं आपको भी अगर कहूं कि सर आप एक काम करिए, एक क्वेश्चन पेपर सेट करिए, if I give you this task of setting 100 questions in the prelims or 20 questions in the mains, etc., if I ask you to do that, you are not going to generally dive into the subject first. Rather, you will first look at the PYQs. And when you analyze, you will come to know that certain areas are highlighted. Specifically, CPC is an area जहां पे questions बहुत predictable रहते हैं. और इन predictable areas में से भी जो questions आते हैं, वो कभी कभार बहुत डायरेक्ट होते हैं, और दे आर एप्लीकेशन बेस्ड, बट दैट इज अ वेरी रेयर सिचुएशन जब एप्लीकेशन बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस आते हैं. स्पेसिफिकली स्टेट्स लाइक दिल्ली, हरियाणा, पंजाब, हिमाचल, समटाइम्स दे आस्क एप्लीकेशन बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस. जनरली द क्वेश्चंस देयर आल्सो आर क्वाइट डायरेक्ट इफ यू आर एबल टू कैच द नर्व. जब हम ये देखते हैं सूट्स बाय और अगेंस्ट द गवर्नमेंट, दिस इज आल्सो वन ऑफ दोज एरियाज वेर इन क्वेश्चंस आर आस्क्ड रिपीटेडली in the prelims, in the mains. And so we are going to deal with this area, which is not very, very difficult, but the thing is that we need to understand it in a holistic manner. See, I'll tell you that this particular topic deals with suits which are filed against the government or suits which are filed by the government. Meaning to say that either the government is the plaintiff and is suing somebody, or the government is the defendant and is being sued by somebody. Let's look at the Bail Act and see what it particularly says. That either the government will be the plaintiff or the government will be the defendant. अब इसमें कुछ छोटी छोटी प्रिजम्पशंस भी हम लेकर चलते हैं, उन प्रिजम्पशंस को भी हम साथ साथ समझते रहेंगे, एंड दे आर क्वाइट एक्सप्रेसली given in the Bail Act. Let's go to the Bail Act and see how it is placed. See, section 79. I hope you know CPC is divided into sections and orders. The reason being, sections, they are more substantive, not exactly, but more substantive in nature, and they can be amended by the legislature. The orders, that is the schedule which contains the orders and the rules are more procedural in nature, and they can be amended by the legislature as well as by the high courts. That is why there is a distinction in the orders and the rules. Let us look at section 79. See, it says suits by or against the government. In a suit by or against the government, the authority to be named as plaintiff or defendant, as the case may be, shall be. So now they are basically giving us the nomenclature. Who will be called the plaintiff? Who will be called the defendant as regards a suit by the government or against the government? A. In the case of a suit by or against the central government, the Union of India. So if there is a suit which is by the central government, the Union of India will be named as the plaintiff. And if there is a suit against the central government, then Union of India will be the defendant. So they are giving us the nomenclature. Similarly here, in the case of a suit by or against a state government, the state, for example, if it is the state of, let's say, Uttar Pradesh, who's filing a civil suit. So in the plaintiff's name, you will write the state of Uttar Pradesh. So if the suit concerns the state government either as the plaintiff or as the defendant, state government has to be written. And if it is the union government, then Union of India has to be written. Fairly simple. Section 79 does not pose much of a problem for us. So what does section 79 say? Section 79 basically talks about the nomenclature. It talks about the nomenclature, that either it will be the Union of India or it will be the state. That is the concerned state. Whichever state will be the concerned state, that will be named as the plaintiff or the defendant. I hope this is clear to you. So section 79 only deals with the nomenclature. Nothing very much technical about it. Now, let us come to section 80. Section 80 talks about notice, and this is one of the most important provisions regarding this particular area. We'll spend quite some time here. Let's see. Save as otherwise provided in subsection 2. No suit shall be instituted against the government, including the government of the state of Jammu and Kashmir, or against a public officer in respect of any act purporting to be done by such public officer in his official capacity until the expiration of 2 months next after notice in writing has been delivered to or left at the office of. Now they are giving the authorities. We'll deal with the authorities in some time, but first let us understand what they are talking about in section 80, the main paragraph. Under section 80 subsection 1, they are saying that before we file a suit against the government or we file a suit against the public officer for something done in discharge of his official duties, in his official capacity, we have to give a notice of 2 months. Now please listen here. Let's understand this. Section 80 subsection 1 talks about a 2 months notice before institution of the suit against either the government or a public officer in official capacity. What is the purpose of this 2 months notice and what exactly does it mean? Let me illustrate it for you. What section 80 subsection 1 demands is, let us say you want to institute a suit against the government or against a पब्लिक सर्वेंट, ये ध्यान रखिएगा, ये जो पब्लिक सर्वेंट या पब्लिक ऑफिसर है, this will always be for any act which is done by the public officer in discharge of his official duties. ऐसा नहीं होगा कि अगर पब्लिक ऑफिसर के पर्सनल कैपेसिटी में हमें कोई सूट फाइल करना है तो उसके लिए भी यही प्रोसीजर हम फॉलो करेंगे. दैट इज नॉट गोइंग टू बी द केस. इट्स नॉट दैट पब्लिक ऑफिसर का डिवोर्स का सूट चल रहा है तो उसके लिए भी यही प्रोसीजर फॉलो होगा. नो, नॉट फॉर एनीथिंग इन हिज ऑफिशियल कैपेसिटी. Only for acts which have been done by the public servant or officer in his official capacity, not in the personal capacity. So let us say we want to file a suit against the government or the public servant or officer. What section 80 subsection 1 is saying, you cannot file a suit just like that. आप automatically in the first instance एक suit file नहीं कर सकते. Rather, first you have to give a notice to the concerned authority. वो concerned authority भी section 80 subsection 1 ने बताई हुई है. You first have to give a notice to the concerned authority. And what will be the duration of this particular notice? The duration of this notice, as it has been observed, is 2 months. That means you first have to give a notice to the concerned authority, wait for 2 months, and then institute the suit against the government or public servant or public officer who has done something in discharge of his official duties. Now, sir, what is the purpose of this 2 months notice? What kind of privilege are we giving to the government or the public servant? And if yes, why is the privilege being extended to the government or to the public servant? See, understand. The purpose of this 2 months notice is not exactly to give some sort of privilege to the government. The purpose of the notice, is to ensure or is to facilitate pre-litigation settlement. Is to facilitate or promote pre-litigation settlement. तो सर ये बाकी केसेस में भी होना चाहिए. ये 2 months का नोटिस हम बाकी जगह भी दे सकते हैं, यहां पर हमने मैंडेटरी क्यों करा है? See, the general expectation is, I hope you are making some running notes. The general expectation is that the government or the public servant will not commit a wrongful act. General expectation is that the government or the public servant will not commit a wrongful act. They will not violate the civil legal rights of the citizens. पर अगर ऐसा हुआ है या अगर कोई सिटीजन अग्रीव्ड है, अगर ऐसा लगता है किसी को, तो ऐसी पर्टिकुलर सिचुएशन में वी शुड गिव 2 months time to the government. Now that's a matter of policy. 2 महीने क्यों है, 1 महीना क्यों नहीं है, 45 days क्यों नहीं है, 6 months क्यों नहीं, that is a matter of policy. The legislative wisdom is what is there in the Bare Act and that is 2 months. तो 2 महीने का लगभग समय, रीजनेबल टाइम पीरियड है, हमें देना चाहिए कि हम नोटिस दें गवर्नमेंट को या पब्लिक सर्वेंट को कि भाई हमारी कुछ ग्रीवेंस है, we think that we have a cause of action in our favor and you have to give us some remedy. So either you consider our request, discuss it with us, go for pre-litigation settlement, settle the matter outside the court, because we do not want to tangle the government in suits and litigation. In our last session also I had discussed, and today also I'll tell you, the principle of law that should be followed is interest republicae Atsit finis litium. Most of the civil procedure is based on this. Interest republicae atsit finis litium. That is, it is in the interest of the state to put an end to litigation. We should reduce litigation as much as possible. So we should not tangle the government in proceedings. We should not unnecessarily engage the public officer in the court in preparation for the suit and expect him to leave his official duties. There might be some overstepping, or there might be some sort of negligence on the part of the public officer. There might be some cause of action that the private citizen has against the government or against the public officer, but that does not mean that the larger public goal or the larger public interest should be kept at stake and it should be sacrificed at the altar of your interest and your cause of action. We should not create this kind of a disbalance. That is why we are saying, whenever you think that you have a cause of action against the government or you have a cause of action against the public officer, you send a notice and wait for 2 months. Let us see if the government wants to engage in pre-litigation settlement. Give them an opportunity to settle the matter outside the court. Or if they do not settle the matter outside the court, that means no resolution can be obtained even after giving this notice. Either the government engaged in a conversation with you that you are aggrieved, let us look at your problem and give you a redressal. Let us look at your cause of action. Either the government will engage in some conversation with you and they will look for pre-litigation settlement, that let us not unnecessarily increase judicial burden, let us not waste our time in litigation, let us solve the matter outside the court. So you will get a relief. Or the government might say that no, according to us, we have not done anything wrong after looking at the situation, and you can avail your legal remedies. Then you can file the suit. But what section 80 subsection 1 is saying, that you have to give a 2 months notice to the government or public officer before you institute a suit against the government or the public officer. This is the rule that has been laid down by section 80 subsection 1. And I've told you the reason. The reason is to facilitate, the reason is to allow pre-litigation settlement, not to tangle the government official or the government in suits, in litigation. And the general expectation is that the government is not going to do any wrong. And if at all there is some violation or alleged violation of your civil legal rights, then in such a situation, you institute a suit only after giving the government an opportunity of 2 months. Let the government come forward and let the government give you a resolution. अगर आपकी प्रॉब्लम का हल निकल जाता है और गवर्नमेंट आपसे बात कर लेती है, तो what is the need to file a suit? It is saving your time harassment. It is saving the time and harassment of the government officials also. That is the purpose of this 2 months notice. जनरली लोग क्या करते हैं कि इस फैक्चुअल इंफॉर्मेशन को रटने की कोशिश करते हैं, लोग याद भी करवाते हैं. 2 months notice has to be given. ये सवाल बार बार आता है. But when you understand the logic and story behind it, it becomes very easy to remember that why this 2 months notice has to be given. I hope things are clear to you that what is the reason for this 2 months notice. And these are the authorities to whom the notice has to be given. These are the authorities to whom the notice has to be given. In the case of suit against the central government, except where it relates to a railway, a secretary to that government. The public officer at the level of the secretary rank, the suit will be instituted, but a notice has to be given and the notice has to be addressed to the secretary to that particular government. 2 months notice to the secretary to that particular government. So notice will be given to the secretary of that government in case of a central government. And you know, secretary is one of the highest ranking officials. In the case of a suit against the central government where it relates to a railway, the general manager of that railway, you understand who is going to handle the administrative affairs of the central government? The secretary. The secretary is going to handle the administrative affairs. That does not mean that the secretary is going to personally appear, but the secretary is going to assign that case to the relevant official. I hope you understand that even in a school, I'm just taking a very simple example of a day-to-day basis. Just understand that even if in the setup of a school, if you have a grievance against the teacher, the proper channel is to approach the principal and ask the principal to get it solved rather than taking the matter head on with that particular teacher. The proper channel is to go to the principal so that the principal also is in a position to be answerable, because she is in that position of authority and she is going to ultimately handle the administration and management. Right? So here also the secretary is going to be approached. Similarly, in the case of a railway, because that is a very separate institution and that is somewhere or the other very widespread and contains several levels of officials, the general manager of the railway is going to handle that matter. Then, in the case of a suit against the government of the state of Jammu and Kashmir, the chief secretary to that government or any other officer authorized by that government in this behalf. In the case of a suit against any other state government, the secretary to that government or collector of the district. Now, you understand, union cannot have that collector rank official working for the entire country. The secretary is that official at the top who is going to handle all these things. But for each and every state, there is either the secretary that you are going to address that issue to, or there is going to be the collector of the district, which is at the lower level. Lower level meaning that who is at the grassroots level in the management of that particular district and who is going to control the administrative affairs of that district. So इसको रटने की जरूरत नहीं है. अगर सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट है तो सेक्रेटरी टू दैट गवर्नमेंट, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट है तो या तो सेक्रेटरी टू दैट गवर्नमेंट, secretary to the state government who is going to handle the management of the entire state machinery, or the collector of the district. Agar railway hai to it will be the general manager of the railway. For Jammu and Kashmir, it will be the chief secretary or other official who is designated. So secretary to the government, for other states secretary to the government or collector of the district. For railways, general manager of the railways is going to handle all those affairs. And for JNK, it is going to be the chief secretary or other official. So, and in the case of a public officer, delivered to him or left at his office. So, when we are talking specifically about a public officer, that particular notice has to be left at the office of that particular public officer, or you deliver it to him. So, public officer को आप personally address कर रहे हैं in his official capacity. I'm reminding you that it's not going to be a private matter of a public official. It is going to be a public matter, basically his act which is in the discharge of his official duties. Stating the cause of action, the name, description and place of residence of the plaintiff and the relief which he claims, and the plaint shall contain a statement that such notice has been so delivered or left. Now, something very important hidden in these lines. What are they saying? They are saying delivered to him or left at his office, fine. Stating the cause of action. So, you will state the cause of action in the notice. You will state the name, description and place of residence of the plaintiff and the relief which he claims, and the plaint shall contain a statement that such notice has been so delivered or left. Now let us understand this also. When they are talking about this notice, they are saying that the notice should contain the cause of action, the name of the plaintiff, the place and description of residence, and the relief that has been claimed. Now you understand that cause of action, why? because we want to understand cause of action, the reason for bringing the suit. Why are you aggrieved? What civil legal right has been violated? So cause of action, meaning that particular reason for which the suit has been instituted. Name of the plaintiff, that means who is filing the suit. Place and description of the residence. Sometimes the citizen is staying in an area which is, either very congested, or you cannot particularly identify, probably it is a village settlement or a very remote area in which that particular plaintiff is residing. So the place, if it is easily identifiable, then description is not that necessary. And then description of the residence becomes necessary, where description should be given to identify that where that particular person is exactly staying. Because how will you reach out to that person? Again, reaching out by even a letter or a registered post will require the proper description of where you stay if it is not easily identifiable. जहां आप रहते हैं अगर वो प्रॉपरली आइडेंटिफाई नहीं हो सकता है, उस जगह की परिस्थितियां इस तरीके की है कि डिस्क्रिप्शन से बेटर पता चल सकता है, तो साथ साथ आप डिस्क्रिप्शन भी बताइए. Why? Because we want to reach out to you for pre-litigation settlement. हम पहुंचेंगे कैसे आप तक और क्या रिलीफ मांग रहे हैं आप? अगेन अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग, व्हाट रिलीफ आर यू आस्किंग फॉर? कि ठीक है, आपको एक प्रॉब्लम है, प्रॉब्लम के लिए आप रिलीफ क्या मांग रहे हैं, सो दैट व्हेन वी कम टू यू फॉर प्री-लिटिगेशन सेटलमेंट वी कम प्रिपेयर्ड. We are not in a situation where you are sending us a notice, then we are asking you what is the problem, then we are understanding the problem, then you are telling us the relief, then we are discussing about the relief. That is going to take enormous amount of time. And interest republic sit finish litigation. We want to put an end to litigation. We don't want to unnecessarily prolong litigation. So tell us everything at one place. I hope this is clear, that 2 months notice has to be given before the institution of a suit against the government or public officer who has done something in the discharge of his official duties. The notice has to contain the cause of action. The notice should contain the place and the description of the residence of the plaintiff. The notice also has to contain the name of the plaintiff, and the notice should also contain the relief. Now, the most important part is the cause of action, relief, the name of the plaintiff. These are one of the most important parts. Sometimes what will happen is that the notice might not contain very crisp details. But if it sufficiently highlights the major part of the problem, probably the description of the residence is incorrect, but it is still identifiable, or the name of the plaintiff has been written incorrectly, or probably you have omitted but you have written the residence, so you know where the plaintiff stays but you probably do not know the name. Meaning to say that if there is sufficient matter for pre-litigation settlement to commence, ध्यान से सुनिएगा, if there is sufficient matter, sufficient details in the notice for pre-litigation settlement to take place, the notice may be irregular, but it will not be void. That means it will be sufficient compliance and the notice will be treated merely to be irregular but not invalid. That means it will be considered to be a valid but irregular notice. हाँ भाई, थोड़ी सी गड़बड़ रह गई, but जो नोटिस दिया है प्लेंटिफ ने वो वैलिड है. ऐसा आप नहीं कह सकते कि सर इस नोटिस में तो आपने डिस्क्रिप्शन नहीं लिखा रेसिडेंस का. अरे भाई, अगर अदरवाइज थ्रू द एड्रेस, otherwise through the other details, if you are able to identify the residence of that particular plaintiff, then what is the problem? Procedure is the handmaiden of justice. Don't unnecessarily overcomplicate the matter by wanting unnecessary details. There is no need for it. तो नोटिस हो सकता है इरेगुलर हो, पर अगर प्री लिटिगेशन सेटलमेंट के लिए कॉज ऑफ एक्शन सफिशिएंटली दिख रहा है, रिलीफ आपको साफ पता चल रहा है, हो सकता है नेम में गड़बड़ हो पर रेसिडेंस आपको पता है, अगर सफिशिएंट डिटेल्स हैं कि हम एक्शन ले सकते हैं, तो द नोटिस मे बी इरेगुलर बट इट इज नॉट वॉइड. यू कैन नॉट इग्नोर द नोटिस. I hope this is clear, and the authorities are also clear that whom will the notice be addressed to. Subsection 2, again a very important part. One more thing that we need to observe here. name, description, place of residence of the plaintiff which he claims, and the plaint shall contain a statement that such notice has been so delivered or left. Now, this thing also we need to discuss once. Yes, very important. Now, what are they basically saying? That compliance of section 80 subsection 1 has to be stated in the plaint. That means the plaint should contain a statement that, where is the plaint going to be filed? Here. The plaint should contain a statement that the notice has been given. And then we have waited for 2 months and then we have instituted the suit. So this statement should be there in the plaint. This is what they have written in the latter part, in the last sentence of the provision, subsection 1. But they have not written what will be the consequence. Else, what is the consequence? The consequence is a rejection of plaint. It will be rejection of plaint under Order 7, Rule 11, Clause D. It can be return of plaint also. We can return the plaint also. Order 7, Rule 10. We can return the plaint also. But it is a ground for rejection of plaint also. Now, why am I saying specifically rejection of plaint and why am I focusing more on rejection of plaint? See, when you look at Order 7, Rule 11D, it talks about that where the suit appears to be barred by any law. Other defects like, jurisdiction, etc., they are covered in other clauses, but Order 7, Rule 11D basically talks about a demurrer's claim. You understand what is a demurrer's claim? Demurrer's claim means that the claim or the objection will be manifest. That means it will be visible from the plaint itself. You will not have to take, again, no evidence will be needed for rejection. That means you will not have to take any kind of evidence if you want to go for rejection of the plaint. The ground for the rejection will be very much visible from the plaint itself. You will be able to see that what exactly is the objection, what exactly is the ground for the rejection of the plaint. That is called a demurrer's claim. That is called a demurrer's claim, where it will be visible directly from the plaint itself that what ground is there for rejection. No evidence will be taken. और अगर आप notice serve नहीं करते हो, so it will result in rejection of plaint or it may result in return of plaint. It is not that statement नहीं लिखी तो होगा ऐसा. स्टेटमेंट नहीं लिखी पर नोटिस अटैच करा हुआ है तो कोई प्रॉब्लम ऐसा आएगी नहीं उस बात पे, क्योंकि नोटिस दिखेगा हमें एनेक्स्चर में. बट अगर स्टेटमेंट आप लिख रहे हो या नहीं लिख रहे हो, नोटिस नहीं दिया, यानी कि यू हैव नॉट सर्व्ड द नोटिस, then either there will be return of plaint, which is a milder procedure, Order 7 Rule 11, Order 7 Rule 10, or there will be rejection of plaint, that is Order 7 Rule 11 Clause D, which is a demurrer's claim. That means it will be visible from the plaint itself what exactly is the defect in the plaint and why are we rejecting the plaint, because you have not served the notice. The mandatory requirement of Section 80 subsection 1 has not been complied with, and that is why we are rejecting your plaint. I hope this is also clear. So that particular part is very technical and it relates to Order 7 Rule 11D. It's one of the classic examples of a demurrer's claim, that non-compliance with Section 80 subsection 1, you have not given the notice that had to be given. Subsection 2, a suit to obtain an urgent or immediate relief against the government, including the government of state of J&K or any public officer in respect of any act purporting to be done by such public officer in his official capacity. Now they are talking about urgent or immediate relief. Abhi chahiye relief. Urgent hai. Then what will happen? The suit may be instituted with the leave of the court without serving any notice as required by subsection 1. So you take the permission of the court and the court will record its reasons why the court is allowing you to bypass the 2 months notice. But the court shall not grant relief in the suit, whether interim or otherwise, except after giving to the government or public officer, as the case may be, a reasonable opportunity of showing cause in respect of the relief prayed for in the suit. Provided, court shall, if it is satisfied after hearing the parties that no urgent immediate relief needed to be granted in the suit, return the plate for presentation to it after complying with the requirements of subsection 1. Now, what are they saying here? If you look at section 80 subsection 2, it basically provides suit without notice under section 80 subsection 1. This suit can be for urgent or immediate relief. Now, you might think that notice will cause such delay that the plaintiff will suffer some irreparable loss. अगर आप नोटिस देते हो, बिकॉज नोटिस भी ऐसा नहीं है ना कि 2 दिन का हो या 1 हफ्ते का हो, 2 months का है, so it might be a sufficiently long period of time for you to suffer some irreparable loss. So urgent or immediate relief is needed. That means the notice will cause such delay that the plaintiff will suffer an irreparable loss. अगर 2 महीने तक हम वेट करते हैं सूट फाइल करने से पहले, नोटिस दे के 2 महीने तक बैठे हुए हैं, तो हमें इतना नुकसान हो जाएगा कि उसकी भरपाई बड़ी मुश्किल है. तो अर्जेंट इमीडिएट रिलीफ हमें अभी चाहिए, इसीलिए हम सूट फाइल करना चाह रहे हैं विदाउट नोटिस अंडर सेक्शन 80 सबसेक्शन 1. सो वी आर बाईपासिंग द नोटिस. लेकिन ये ऐसा नहीं है कि इट विल बी एन ऑटोमेटिक थिंग. व्हाट विल हैपन? कोर्ट विल रिकॉर्ड रीजंस and grant or reject the application or request. Now you have filed an application that I want urgent and immediate relief, and that is why I want to file a suit without the notice under section 80 subsection 1. So you are wanting to avail the benefit of 80 subsection 2. They are saying court will record reasons and grant or reject the application or request. That means court will see whether actually there is some urgent or immediate relief that is required. Why do you want to bypass the statutory provision and requirement of 80 subsection 1? If there is a sufficient reason, then procedure will bend for you. Procedure is the handmaiden of justice. We will mold the procedure for you. That's absolutely fine. But there has to be an urgent or immediate relief that should be needed. It should be visible that waiting for 2 months is going to be very problematic. And there will be some loss which will be caused to the plaintiff, which will be not in the interest of the plaintiff. It will be against the interest of justice. So equity requires that you bypass section 80 subsection 1 and allow the suit to be instituted. But remember, only suit will be allowed and the government or public officer will be heard regarding the urgency and no relief will be granted without hearing the government or public officer. We will not grant you a relief before we hear the public officer. अगर हमें आपको रिलीफ भी ग्रांट करना है तो हम पहले पब्लिक ऑफिसर को या गवर्नमेंट को सुनेंगे कि भाई क्यों हम ये सूट अलाउ करें, बताइए, why should we allow this suit? तो government will resist the application. No, sir, you should not allow this suit because there is no need for urgent immediate relief. And ultimately, if after hearing, if upon hearing the court thinks that urgent or immediate relief not needed, then there will be order 7 rule 10, that is return of plaint plus you comply with section 80 subsection 1 before suit. मतलब नोटिस दो और फिर सूट फाइल करो. तो क्या पॉइंट्स है? सबसे पहले तो अर्जेंट या इमीडिएट रिलीफ अगर आपको चाहिए, then notice will not be served and you have to justify yourself that there is going to be such delay. If we file the notice and then we file the suit, it is going to be such a delay that is going to be very problematic for us. That is going to be very, very problematic for us. So you first file a notice, then you file the suit. But if you want to bypass this, then you can simply do what? You can simply ask the court that I want some urgent and immediate relief, and the notice will cause delay and that the plaintiff is going to suffer irreparable losses. 2 months का time बहुत ज्यादा हो जाएगा. Court will record its reasons and then may grant or reject the application or request. Then the suit will be allowed. We will not grant you relief until we hear the government. Why should we allow this suit? See, listen, this is the reason that the plaintiff is giving. We are allowing this suit. You tell me. So the government is going to bring up the objection that no, this suit should not be allowed before pre-litigation settlement. Give us 2 months time first. There is no need for urgent relief. And if the court thinks that actually there was no need for urgency, then we will return the plaint. But relief हम grant नहीं करेंगे जब तक हम opposite party यानी कि गवर्नमेंट को ना सुन ले. तो आप अगर बिना नोटिस के सूट फाइल भी कर रहे हो, इसका मतलब ये नहीं रिलीफ मिल जाएगा. सिर्फ सूट अलाउ होगा. रिलीफ तो तभी मिलेगा जब हम ऑपोजिट पार्टी को सुन ले. ठीक है, नेचुरल जस्टिस भी ये कहता है, इक्विटी भी ये कहती है कि हम आपके लिए कुछ कर रहे हैं, वी आर अलाउइंग दिस, बट द गवर्नमेंट विल ऑल्सो बी हर्ड, द ऑपोजिट पार्टी विल ऑल्सो बी हर्ड. I hope this is also clear. 80 subsection 2, where you are filing the suit without the notice of section 80 subsection 1. Fine. Subsection 3. No suit instituted against the government or against the public officer in respect of any act purporting to be done by such public officer in his official capacity shall be dismissed merely by reason of any error or defect in the notice. Irregularity in the notice will not be fatal. What did I say? Irregularity in the notice will not be fatal. If in such notice, name, description, residence of the plaintiff had been so given as to enable the appropriate authority or the public officer to identify the person serving the notice, and such notice had been delivered or left at the office of the appropriate authority specified in subsection 1. Basically meaning that you were able to identify. Pre-litigation settlement could have been done. Don't unnecessarily create a havoc. Irregular notice है, suit reject नहीं होगा. The cause of action and the relief claimed by the plaintiff had been substantially indicated. You are able to identify. Everybody does not understand the legal jargon and the language. Probably don't know how to apply that language or how to use that language. They have tried their level best to explain the cause of action and the relief claimed. But if you are able to identify the cause of action, if you are able to identify the relief that has been claimed, there is no need to reject the suit, and the notice may be irregular, but it will not be void. The same thing that I have explained to you. Exemption from arrest and personal appearance. What are they saying? Public officers, they are doing their job. Don't unnecessarily bother them with suits. ठीक है, they might not be needed personally. Sometimes if they are needed personally, the court may call for them, but generally they are not needed personally. Let the government council do their job. Whenever you look at order 27 also, वहां पर भी आपको मिलेगा that the council for the government, they are the agents of the government. They can handle everything that has been given to them. You can read order 27 for that. In a suit instituted against a public officer in respect of any act purporting to be done by him in his official capacity, the defendant shall not be liable to arrest nor his property to attachment otherwise than an execution of a decree. That means they are saying, please understand here, they are saying that no arrest or attachment of property in the suit, this is allowed in execution only. I hope you understand what is execution when the suit is decided. So let us say the suit is decreed in your favor, then you file for execution, and for execution the period of limitation is 12 years. You have 12 years to get the execution done. Execution is basically to actually, ये तो डिक्री में तो लिखा है ना, to actually get the relief that has been given to you by the court. कोर्ट ने कहा प्रॉपर्टी उन्हें दो, तो दो प्रॉपर्टी दो जिस व्यक्ति के फेवर में डिक्री है. That is execution. We have stated it, now you do it. That is execution. The execution of the right that has been given. So no arrest or attachment of property in the suit, allowed in execution only. Sometimes the attachment of property takes place during the suit proceedings also, but no, it will not happen. It will only be done in execution. लिखा हुआ है. Otherwise then in execution of a decree. Then where the court is satisfied that the defendant cannot absent himself from his duty without detriment to the public service, it shall exempt him from appearing in person. Now the person might be engaged in some very important matters. Again, we have to create a balance. ठीक है, suit चल रहा है. Let the representative come. Let the government advocate come. Why do you need him personally? If the court needs the person personally, the court will call the person. But don't make it detrimental for the rest of the public and their interest. Let the public officer do their job. Let the government do its job. Let the official do its job. So don't unnecessarily call them to court. They can be exempted from appearance. They are exempted from arrest and attachment during the suit, but arrest and attachment can take place in the execution. अब देखो execution से एक और important चीज जो हमें पता चलेगी 82 से देखिए. Where in a suit by or against the government or by or against a public officer in respect of any act purporting to be done by him in his official capacity, a decree is passed against the Union of India or a state, or as the case may be the public officer, such decree shall not be executed except in accordance with the provisions of subsection 2. अब उन्होंने बहुत कुछ तो नहीं बताया, बट सिर्फ इतना कहा एग्जीक्यूशन करवाना है सबसेक्शन 2 के हिसाब से कराओ. सबसेक्शन 2 क्या कह रहा है? एग्जीक्यूशन शैल नॉट बी इशूड इन ऑन एनी सच डिक्री अनलेस इट रिमेन्स अनसैटिस्फाइड फॉर द पीरियड ऑफ 3 months computed from the date of such decree. They are saying execution of this decree. Whenever I am writing decree, please, I hope you understand, this is a decree in a suit by or against the state government. I am talking about specifically order 27 suits. ठीक है, अगर ये डिक्री आई है for a suit which had been instituted under order 27, that is suit by or against the government, in execution of these decrees 3 months time is given. For what? That means you have to wait for 3 months before filing for execution. आप 3 महीने वेट करिए एग्जीक्यूशन से पहले. That means what are they saying effectively? Please understand, please have a look here. They are basically saying that, see, this is the notice. Notice has been given 2 months, then the suit has been instituted. After the institution of the suit, let us say the suit is decreed. That means the suit was against the government. The suit was filed against the government. So the plaintiff won. Wait for 3 months and then you can file for execution. Then you go for an execution and file for execution. 3 महीने wait करो. Why? Again, I hope you are taking running notes. Again, the expectation is that the government will oblige and it will not violate the judgment of the court. The government should not be again tangled in unnecessary litigation. Don't tangle the government in unnecessary litigation. Sorry. Let them do their job. अगर आपको लगता भी है कि एग्जीक्यूशन की जरूरत पड़े तो 3 महीने रुको. द एक्सपेक्टेशन इज गवर्नमेंट खुद आएगी और उस पर्टिकुलर डिग्री को सेटिस्फाई करेगी. देयर इज नो नीड टू रन फॉर एग्जीक्यूशन. वेट फॉर 3 months. फाइन. I hope this is also clear to all of you. Wait for 3 months. Don't unnecessarily run for execution. So you have to wait for 3 months before filing for execution. Provisions of subsection 1 and 2 shall apply in relation to an order or award. Award kaun sa? Arbitration award. As they apply in relation to a decree if the award or order is passed against Union of India state public officer in respect of public duty, whether by court or by any other authority, and is capable of being executed under the provisions of this code or of any other law for the time being in force as if it were a decree. So what they are basically saying? They are basically saying that provisions of subsection 1 and 2, they are going to apply to an order also. If order is passed, we'll deal with decree and order in a separate session. Decree is the determination of substantive legal rights. Order is determination of procedural legal rights. So if an order is passed against the government or public officer, or an award, that is an arbitration award, is passed, the same procedure is going to be followed if it is executable. Wait for 3 months there also. कितना इतना बहुत सिंपल सी बात कह रहे हैं. सिर्फ इतनी सी बात है कि 3 महीने वहां पर भी आपने रुकना है एग्जीक्यूशन से पहले. Don't run for execution. Why? The expectation is that the government will itself comply with the directions of the court. I hope this is clear. Now, this is Y.K. Sabharwal. Salem Advocates Bar Association, Tamil Nadu versus Union of India, 2005 Supreme Court, 3-judge bench, Honorable Mr. Y.K. Sabharwal, Justice. Here they are saying that, मैं बता देता हूं, basically Justice Y.K. Sabharwal, he's observed that even after notice is being granted, the government officers are sitting idle. You impose, as a court, you impose exemplary costs, very high costs on them, because they have been given an opportunity to go for pre-litigation settlement. Notice period of 2 months is given, so notice is served, but they are sitting idle for these 2 months and nothing is happening, and then suit is ultimately filed. So the purpose is being violated and the purpose is becoming actually redundant and useless. What is the purpose of this notice if you are not even acting upon the notice that has been served? If you are not going for pre-litigation settlement, so go for pre-litigation settlement. Don't unnecessarily sit idle in the court, in your offices. Go to the court, go to the party, get the matter resolved. Otherwise, exemplary costs. और एक और चीज जो बड़ी observe करी गई conceptually, I'll illustrate it for you. Basically, what has been said time and again is that, let us say the notice is served of 80 subsection 1. The notice is served. The time period for the notice is 2 months. ठीक है, it talks about a 2 months notice. But on the 58th day, complete तो नहीं हुए 2 महीने, on the 58th day, suit is instituted. So now the government cannot come smirking into the court and saying, no, अब तो आपका जो ये सूट है वो तो डेफिनेटली प्लेंट आपके रिजेक्ट होने वाली है, ये रिटर्न हो जाएगी, ये तो डिसमिस होगा. क्यों? क्योंकि आपने नोटिस 2 महीने का पूरा सर्व नहीं करा. सो दिस हैज बीन ऑब्जर्व्ड टाइम एंड अगेन कि अगर आपने 58 दिनों में कुछ नहीं करा तो अब आप 2 दिन में और ऐसा क्या कर लेंगे जो आपने 58 डेज में नहीं करा है. So if you were sitting idle for 58 days, it is highly unlikely that something exemplary and extraordinary is going to happen in the next 2 days. Sorry. We will allow the suit. We will mold the procedure. Again, why? Procedure is the handmaiden of justice. It is not its mistress. It is the handmaiden of justice. So you please understand that if you have not done something in 57, 58 days, 54 days, 59 days, what are you going to do in the last 4, 5, 6 days? ऐसा क्या कर लेंगे आप? How will you come to a resolution in these 5, 6 days? इतना तो मैटर समझने में और बातचीत करने में लग जाएगा आपको. So if you have not done anything for a substantial amount of time, basically the court in its judicial discretion and wisdom can allow the suit without the exact and strict compliance of 2 months. कि भाई पूरे 2 महीने रुको, जरूरी नहीं है. सामने वाला व्यक्ति भी देख रहा है कि आपने इतने दिनों से ना कांटेक्ट करा है, कांटेक्ट भी करा है तो कुछ कोई सब्सटैंशियल स्टेप फॉर प्री लिटिगेशन सेटलमेंट आपने लिया ही नहीं है. अब लास्ट के कुछ दिनों में कुछ एक छोटे से टाइम पीरियड में क्या कर लेंगे? वी विल अलाउ द सूट. व्हाई? वी विल मोल्ड द प्रोसीजर फॉर द एंड्स ऑफ जस्टिस. I hope the concept is clear to you regarding the suits by or against the government. That was one thing that we needed to deal with. Another very interesting and very small topic that we are going to deal with is costs or cost. Now, what exactly is a cost? मैं आपको बताऊं. एक बड़ी फेमस चीज है जो कही जाती है. कॉस्ट शैल ऑलवेज फॉलो द इवेंट. इवेंट का मतलब सूट या प्रोसीडिंग. कॉस्ट शैल ऑलवेज फॉलो द इवेंट. इसका मतलब यहीं में बहुत सारी चीजें क्लियर हो जाएंगी. इसका मतलब एक तो कॉस्ट इज द जनरल रूल. अभी समझाता हूं मैं आपको कॉस्ट क्या होता है. अभी आई विल टेल यू व्हाट एग्जैक्टली इट मींस. लेट मी फर्स्ट ले डाउन द फ्रेमवर्क. It's saying cost is the general rule. That means you have to impose cost. What exactly is cost? Cost का मतलब होता है जब भी एक सूट होगा, एक प्लेंटिफ फाइल कर रहा है सूट को, तो प्लेंटिफ का आने जाने का खर्चा है, प्लेंटिफ का लॉयर का खर्चा है, प्लेंटिफ का टाइम है, प्लेंटिफ की मेंटल हैरेसमेंट भी है, मतलब एक बॉदरेशन भी होती है, कोर्ट भी जाना है, विटनेसेस को बुलाने का खर्चा है, फोटोकॉपी का खर्चा है, बहुत सारी चीजें होती है. राइट? अब प्लेंटिफ मान और डिफेंडेंट की भी होती है. ऐसा नहीं डिफेंडेंट की नहीं है, डिफेंडेंट की भी होती है. अब जरूरी नहीं है कि प्लेंटिफ ने सूट फाइल करा है तो प्लेंटिफ ही डिक्री होल्डर होगा, यानी कि प्लेंटिफ के फेवर में ही सूट डिसाइड होगा. हो सकता है प्लेंटिफ के फेवर में डिसाइड हो सकता है डिफेंडेंट के फेवर में डिसाइड हो. अब मेरी बात समझिए, अगर प्लेंटिफ के फेवर में सूट डिसाइड हो रहा है तो डिफेंडेंट विल पे कॉस्ट टू द प्लेंटिफ. दैट मींस द डिफेंडेंट इज गोइंग टू कॉम्पनसेट द एक्सपेंडिचर ऑफ द प्लेंटिफ. दैट इज द कॉस्ट ऑफ लिटिगेशन जैसे हम कहते हैं. द डिफेंडेंट इज गोइंग टू कॉम्पनसेट द प्लेंटिफ. और अगर डिफेंडेंट अल्टीमेटली पता चलता है दैट द प्लेंटिफ वाज नॉट एबल टू प्रूव हिज कॉज ऑफ एक्शन, तो एक्चुअली में तो इसका मतलब यह है कि डिफेंडेंट हैड नॉट violated some civil legal right according to the court. So if the defendant had not violated the civil legal right, the plaintiff will pay the cost to the defendant. तो मतलब जो भी पार्टी अल्टीमेटली प्रूव होती है, यानी कि प्लेंटिफ का अगर कॉज ऑफ एक्शन प्रूव हो जाता है तो डिफेंडेंट विल पे कॉस्ट टू द प्लेंटिफ, बिकॉज प्लेंटिफ हैज इन अ लूज सेंस वन, वो जीत गया है. या अगर प्लेंटिफ अपना कॉज ऑफ एक्शन प्रूव नहीं कर पाता है तो इन अ वेरी वेग सेंस डिफेंडेंट विंस. That means there is nothing wrong against the plaintiff that has been committed by the defendant. तो डिफेंडेंट के खिलाफ कुछ प्रूव नहीं हो पाया तो डिफेंडेंट का भी तो खर्चा हुआ है. तो प्लेंटिफ विल पे कॉस्ट टू द डिफेंडेंट. That is what is the meaning of cost. Cost is sometimes paid for filing frivolous suits, frivolous, vexatious, without good faith applications. So अगर कोई vexatious application है या कोई frivolous suit है या it is only for the intention of harassment, it is malified, it lacks good faith, there is some negligence, then also cost is imposed. It is, you can say, a sort of monetary penalty that you have done something wrong and you are going to pay for it. That's it. That is exactly what is cost. That is what is exactly cost. And you understand that cost shall always follow the event. That means for every suit or proceeding, the cost shall always be there. That means cost is the general rule. If cost is not awarded, then the court shall record reasons. If the cost is not awarded, अगर cost नहीं दे रहे हो तब reasons record करने हैं. जनरल रूल है कॉस्ट तो दी ही जाएगी. कॉस्ट शैल ऑलवेज फॉलो द इवेंट. तो कॉस्ट दी जाएगी, वो तो जनरल रूल है. अगर कॉस्ट अवॉर्ड नहीं कर रहा है कोर्ट, देन द कोर्ट हैज टू रिकॉर्ड रीजंस. अब जो कॉस्ट है वो सूट में भी दी जाती है. कॉस्ट है वो प्रोसीडिंग का मतलब बेसिकली यहां पे है एप्लीकेशन से. अब जरा इस बात को थोड़ा सा समझ लीजिए. सूट में बेसिकली डिक्री होल्डर इज गिवन द कॉस्ट. वही मैंने जो आपको बताया, इफ द प्लेंटिफ इज एबल टू प्रूव हिज कॉज ऑफ एक्शन, डिफेंडेंट विल पे कॉस्ट टू द प्लेंटिफ. If the plaintiff is not able to prove his cause of action, then plaintiff will pay cost to the defendant. And in applications, the applicant always bears the cost irrespective of the, you can say, winning side or party, या irrespective of who is at fault. Irrespective of who is at fault, it is the applicant who is going to bear the cost. The applicant always bears the cost irrespective of who is at fault. It may be the other side, the respondent may be. Application for temporary injunction, applicant is going to bear cost because you, application जब भी फाइल होगी ना, application रेगुलर प्रोसीजर से डिविएशन के लिए ही होगी. अमेंडमेंट ऑफ प्लीडिंग्स, सूट नहीं कह रहा अमेंड करो प्लीडिंग्स को, प्लीडिंग्स एक ही बार लेकर आओ, लेकिन अगर अमेंडमेंट करनी है, इट इज डिविएशन फ्रॉम द प्रोसीजर. टेम्पररी इंजंक्शन परपेचुअल मिलेगी एंड में जाकर, टेम्पररी अभी कुछ चाहिए, डिविएशन फ्रॉम द प्रोसीडिंग्स. एप्लीकेशन फॉर इंप्लीडमेंट, पहले लेकर आते पार्टी को, लेकिन आपने पहले पार्टी को इंप्लीड नहीं करा, अब इंप्लीड करना चाहते हो, डिविएशन फ्रॉम द मेन प्रोसीजर. एप्लीकेशन इज ऑलवेज स्टेपिंग ऑन द साइडलाइंस ऑफ द मेन प्रोसीजर. तो इसीलिए क्योंकि आप डिविएट कर रहे हो प्रोसीजर से, ठीक है हम आपकी बात सुनेंगे, बट यू आर गोइंग टू बेयर द कॉस्ट. चाहे आपकी बात हम अलाउ करें तो भी आप ही कॉस्ट बेयर करेंगे, चाहे अगर हम आपकी बात नहीं अलाउ करते तो भी आप ही कॉस्ट बेयर करेंगे. इफ वी अलाउ, then also you are going to bear the cost. If you don't allow the relief that you are asking from the application, then also you are the one, Mr. Applicant, who is going to bear the relief because you want to digress from the main procedure. Fine. So you are going to bear the cost in the case of an application. ठीक है? I hope this is also clear to you. Before going to the Bear Act, some very important observations regarding cost that we all should know. One more thing is, if the party is not able to prove its material issues, मतलब जो आपकी मेन जो बात थी उस पे तो आप अपने पॉइंट को प्रूव नहीं कर पाए, then cost will not be awarded. If you are not able to prove your material issues, then we are not going to award cost. और क्या है, कुछ और additional guidelines हैं. Again, it was in Salem Advocates case, which we have just now discussed. That realistic cost should be imposed. They are saying generally realistic cost should be imposed. देखिए costs different types की होती है. Either it will be realistic, actual जो loss हुआ है वो देना. एक होती है नॉमिनल. नॉमिनल मतलब सिर्फ एक सिंबॉलिक कॉस्ट, थोड़ी सी कॉस्ट, ज्यादा कोई बहुत गलती नहीं करिए, छोटा मोटा कुछ है, नॉमिनल सी कॉस्ट. और एक और कॉस्ट होती है विच इज एग्जेम्पलरी. ये बहुत ज्यादा होती है, 5 लाख, 2 लाख, 10 लाख, बहुत एग्जेम्पलरी मतलब कि कुछ बहुत ही ऐसा कराया आपने विच इन द आईज ऑफ द कोर्ट इज नॉट वेरी प्रॉपर. दैट इज एग्जेम्पलरी कॉस्ट. सो सैलेम एडवोकेट्स केस में कहा था रियलिस्टिक कॉस्ट शुड बी इंपोज्ड. लेट अस डू अवे विद द प्रैक्टिस ऑफ नॉमिनल कॉस्ट्स, बिकॉज कॉस्ट शुड एक्ट एज अ डेटरेंट. कॉस्ट से डेटरेंस इफेक्ट होना चाहिए. वॉट हैव आई सेड? आई हैव सेड दैट कॉस्ट शुड एक्ट एज अ डेटरेंट. मतलब कि लोगों को लगना चाहिए कि यार अगर गड़बड़ हो गई तो कॉस्ट पे करना पड़ेगा. इट शुड एक्ट एज अ डेटरेंट. देन if a party is guilty of misconduct or negligence or false evidence etc., then even if the डिक्री इज इन योर फेवर, हो सकता है ऐसा हो, इट इज वेरी मच पॉसिबल, देन ऑल्सो नो कॉस्ट विल बी अवॉर्डेड. ऑफ कोर्स आपने कोर्ट को मिसलीड करा है, नेग्लिजेंस है, मिसकंडक्ट है, पर अल्टीमेटली कुछ मैटर्स में करा था, डिक्री तो आप फिर भी अपने फेवर में ले पाए बिकॉज कॉज ऑफ एक्शन आपने प्रूव कर दिया, या वॉट एवर द मैटर वॉज, स्टिल कॉस्ट विल नॉट बी अवॉर्डेड. देन if a party was wrongfully impleaded, then it will not bear any cost. अगर पार्टी wrongfully impleaded है तो वो पार्टी कॉस्ट बेयर नहीं करेगी. इंप्लीडमेंट आपको पता है, ऑर्डर 1, राइट? ऑर्डर 1 रूल 1, Order 1 Rule 3, that is impediment of parties, bringing the parties, right? Order 1 Rule 10 also deals with it, where there is impediment, that is Order 1 Rule 1 joinder of plaintiff, Order 1 Rule 3 joinder of defendant, Order 1 Rule 10 where there is impediment and alterations and deletions etc. of parties. So if a party was wrongfully impeded, then it will not bear any cost. Next, now this point is again very important. It says that if a party, it can be plaintiff also, defendant also. See, cost का आपको पता होना चाहिए. Cost is basically related to the deterrent effect. तो हमें लगना चाहिए कि कॉस्ट इंपोज होगा तो प्रॉब्लम होगी, और डेटरेंस के साथ साथ ये दूसरी पार्टी को कॉम्पनसेट करने के लिए भी तो है कि अगर दूसरी पार्टी से कुछ गड़बड़ हो गई है तो जो पार्टी राइटफुल प्लेस पर है उसको भी एक तरीके से हमें कहीं ना कहीं किसी ना किसी तरीके से कॉम्पनसेट करना चाहिए, राइट? इफ अ पार्टी इज इम्प्लीडेड with other parties, that means we are talking about multiple plaintiffs or defendants, multiple plaintiffs or defendants hai, then जो कॉस्ट होगी इट शैल बी शेयर्ड बाय ऑल, चाहे पेमेंट चाहे रिसीविंग, द कॉस्ट शैल बी शेयर्ड बाय ऑल इफ अ पार्टी इज इम्प्लीडेड विद अदर पार्टीज। राइटफुल इम्प्लीडमेंट हुआ है, सही इम्प्लीडमेंट हुआ है, यानी कि मल्टीपल प्लेंटिफ्स या डिफेंडेंट्स है, देन द कॉस्ट शैल बी शेयर्ड बाय all the defendants or all the plaintiffs by either payment or receiving. Now let us go to the sections. एक बारी sections देख लेते हैं. Subject to such conditions and limitations as may be prescribed and to the provisions of any law for the time being in force, the costs of an incident to all suits shall be in the discretion of the court, and the court shall have full power to determine by whom or out of what property and to what extent such costs are to be paid, and to give all necessary directions for the purposes aforesaid. The fact that the court has no jurisdiction to try the suit shall be no bar to exercise of such powers. कहने का मतलब, what are they saying? They are basically saying that, let us say the suit is instituted. There is an objection regarding jurisdiction. So you start, a preliminary hearing is conducted and it is found out that court has no jurisdiction. Court के पास jurisdiction नहीं है. We are saying till court can impose cost. Jurisdiction नहीं है तो भी कोर्ट कॉस्ट इंपोज कर सकती है, बिकॉज कोर्ट तो कोर्ट है. So court can still impose cost even if it does not have jurisdiction to entertain the matter. Matter is separate, cost is separate. Please understand. And they both will go together. Where the court directs that any cost shall not follow the event, the court shall state its reasons. वही मैंने आपको बताया, cost shall always follow the event. General rule है, cost तो पे करनी है. नहीं कर रहे cost पे, तब आपको reasons रिकॉर्ड करने हैं. अब 35 एक compensatory cost in respect of false or vexatious claims or defenses. Now they are talking about cost which has to be paid due to any vexatious claim. And please understand, इसमें एक ही चीज इंपॉर्टेंट है, that it's 3,000 rupees or exceeding the limits of its pecuniary jurisdiction, whichever amount is less. So I hope you have enjoyed the session and you have learned something well out of the session. Please continue to be in tune with us, and we are going to come up with such relevant information for you from time to time. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again. Thank you.